Mhm.
Oi, sanje, chedan soye, chonam lai, chancho bardo, dane, kyabsun, dake, chinso, gebe, sonam, ye, dola, benje, sanje, do, barasho, sanje, chedan soye, chonam lai, chancho bardo, dane, kyabsun, Age chenso yebe sonam je dola benje sanje do barasho sanje chedan so ye chonam la chanjo bardo dane gyalsun je dage chenso yebe sonam je dola benje sanje do barasho esim damje dewa dan deve yodan dembara Semjen damje dunga dan dunga ye gyu dan dawara gyuje. Semjen damje dunga meben dewa dan me dawara gyuje. Semjen damje nyere jadan ye dan da. Dan yam la ne bara gyuru je. Semjen damje dewa dan deve gyu dan dembara gyuje. Semjen damje dunga dan dunga ye gyu dan dawara gyuje. Semjen damje dunga la mebe dewa dan me dawara gyuje. Semjen damje nyere jadan nye dan dawe dan nyum la ne bara gyuru je. Semjen damje dewa dan deve gyu dan dembara Semjen damje dunga dan dunga ye gyu dan dawara gyuje. Semjen damje dunga la mebe dewa dan me dawara gyuje. Semjen damje nyere jadan nye dan da dan nyum la ne bara gyuru ye doje be ye doje me do dan re ro je nyen de yen bai de san ye jin do me de bu ye do ge nan dai jin la che bar jo i dang guru ri na men da la ni an dar ya ni. In English, enlightenment, I dedicate in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Like my activity in this practice, may I attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings.
From now until my enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha.
By
And
the
by the
merit
merit
in
in
this
this
practice,
practice,
may
may I
I
attain
attain
the
the
state
state
of
of Buddha
Buddhahood
for
for
the
the benefit
benefit
of
of
all
all
sentient.
sentient beings. From now until my enlightenment,
I
I
take
take
refuge
refuge
in the
in
Buddha,
Buddha,
the
Dharma,
Dharma,
and
and the
Sangha.
Sangha.
By
And
the
by the
merit
merit
created
created
this
this
practice,
practice, may
may
I
I
attain
attain the state of Buddha
for
for
the
the
benefit
benefit
of
of
all
all
sentient
sentient
beings.
beings.
May
May
all
all
sentient
sentient
beings
beings
enjoy
enjoy
happiness in its
happiness.
causes. May
May
all
all
sentient
sentient
beings
beings
be
be
free
free
from
from
suffering.
suffering and success. May all sentient beings
Beings never
never
be
be
separate
separate
from
from
joyful bliss. May
May
all
all
sentient
sentient
beings
beings
abide in equanimity, realize attachment remain.
May
May
all
all sentient
sentient
beings
beings
enjoy happiness in their spouses. May
May
all
all
sentient
sentient beings
beings,
live suffering in pleasure. May
may
all
all sentient
sentient
beings
beings
never be separate from joy.
May all sentient beings
Abide in equanimity, free
feel
of us.
constant adjustment and anger.
All
All
sentient
sentient
beings
beings
enjoy
to
happiness
happiness
in
in
their
its
spouses.
causes. May all sentient beings
Be free
live
from suffering.
suffering in its causes. May
May
all
all
sentient
beings
beings
never
never
be
be
separate
separate
from
from
joyful
joyful
bliss.
bliss.
May
May
all
all
sentient
sentient
beings
beings
abide in equanimity, realize attachment. This ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, marked male, encircled by four fountains,
surrounded by
with
the
sun
sun
and
and moon,
moon.
a
A visual
visual
of this but of faith and not of weight.
May
May
all
all
living
living
beings
beings
enjoy
enjoy the
the
pure
pure
land.
Idam Guru Vinamanda Lakamianda
Dayami.
Meditation. Amala that touch the leg, Nikun the leg, and yeah. And Tadanda Chidane Namjuniki Lobsen Taranche, Kasang after the Lamanzo. Tito the Yura, Yuranga Neta Chitan Mancha, the Toritina, and the Tama Yuranga Yinanet, and the things in the Sherapti Colatis Shuin, and the Hasantis Chidane, things in the Sherabla, the Chir Tangazo, Tanda Dinama Shudeva, the Sama Ketchambore, the Dinane, the Chik Yuna Menato, Shuna Didu, Tanda things in the Sherap, Tanda Kapsubaba, Tanda to Tugundong so Yichik, Gom Yamlen, the Nangore, the Tizu. 다 단당하죠. 단다 거망아서 검슈가 태양 단당하죠. 띵인진 라 냠버 슈세고 다 띵인진 슈나디기도 검슈나디기도 메디테이션 다 띵이 다 전다로 찍어도 오래 명대 카가 레마도 어디래다 디고 지단에 땅아주 단다 배자 잡이 간데지 세워이나 돌드나 즉 곰냠래 곰당 다 셔랍당 띵인진 딜랑라 뒤도 오래 다 디게 유칭의 테스트 단다 디가는 가서 dordi dress on the facing it show go something.
Although we went through 5 mental factors, five mental factors with the determinate object, we completed that, but want to talk a little bit more about the final 2, concentration and wisdom. Although these, all 5 are important, but within that, the final 2, concentration and wisdom, is something very important and involves in whatever that, the practice that we do, such as we did short meditation at the beginning, a few minutes, and that is also part of the concentration, as well as we can say the wisdom. So another more common word that we use is meditation. So whatever meditation that we do, it usually involves any of these 2, concentration and wisdom. So Geshe wants to talk a little more about these final 2.
Kasane shubare chidane tanda digan la ni chidane gyudan ting chidane gyudang ane chele da ngo dang ane dashe dan dibuze de dendi dishimba dende chene sungdu de ina ta kasane shubayin ta tanda digan la ni gyudang dibu de dishu deni diwalen deni ma dende pena tanda tingin zin la de kandechi tingin zin ki gyudo de kandechi komgi yoba tanda digan la sungba na jen tanda lui dunzi embate keo mangpo ndiwe tsome bata tanda sem namto rakpa embate toba yul na so ki shesu mindrowa nide setu sambala kyu de la khandisi da wuchi kore se na tanda gom kya tsa ki ne da wuchi na ta chik miso mangpo disa memba tende jam ting ting yo sa sem namto rakpa ta chik kati nganzo sem la khande ina chik cha chogore de tende ki chik tende chik chara sem namto rakpa emba de zetu zambala sem de mesa toba yulna soje shesu ta chik tangan zo toba na la chik khari na chacho gre de mach char majuwa chene de ka ne ta chik sem shin jambo de ya la zomba de je la de ji gyukendo ji gyuro ji chagi sar.
In the text, these 2 are explained as just like the others, the nature or definition, causes, and function. So for the cause of the concentration, if you have a book, it's on page 114, the end of book. Concentration, the cause of concentration is twofold. First, physical solitude, away from social involvement, that is away from gatherings of many people. And second, mental solitude, free from gross conceptualization, that is free from running after various objects of thought. So the first one, physical solitude, away from hectic kind of gathering of, like a crowd, as said here. The second, mental solitude, meaning able to, concentrate on the maintain mentally kind of quiet calmness without uh, overpowered or dominated by gross mental conceptions or just all kinds of thoughts.
어디 와디기 단다디 간라네 로벤 파반 남과 저기 슝슈발레 제테 돈다다 다란 직바르사디 롱디 다란 직 슈샤나
With the same meaning, then we have a quote just right below that quote from Sutra, the questions of Gagan Dhyana. The accumulation of calm abiding unites physical solitude and mental solitude.
어디레샤 테네테 와델라 타치다네 단다디 규도오체 타치 팅이지 곰발라 테네 땅안졸라 펜도 가레요 바당 디불레디 삼발라 직 tumde khari thungyo ba de chidane de gyun do nga zo komdan den de la chi beje nang de go ri khengi go ri de ta dan dang zo din peje shung ni sung ba da din na sung ba da ta nga zo tagi marwa ti de zambala tingin zen la tene ta chi la dong gi sherap ke wa ta tanda din la ene tingin zen la tene la dong gi sherap ke wa shiro ge de be yen den la sem chak ba da go ba da tho nam to gi gyu ra ba la sem chu la so shi we lu sem lu dang sem le so ro so jwa yin des ta di gomba te tingin zen gomba te la tene lu dang sem ni ene le so ro che de zambala chi yang da ba ten de ji la go go ra ta tanda di la 띵인지 공발라 때네 때네 라통기 셰랍게제 띵인지 지단에 시내당 라통당 된대직 림지 그 담보 시내 곰네 시내라다 즉 셈네 골라 소바 된대기 심바 망보 전에 곰네 되네 에네 직 라통제도 시내기 셈네 고 텔레 락바 에네 통화텔라 에네 라통제 다 시내다 라통 손대기 공발라 소바 지단에 중리 자첨부 망보 송요르 데 된대기 림바 공바텔라 때네 당한 쪽이 치료기 셈 되베 연대라 셈 착바다 고바다 직 딘디기 너바 남도기 규라바서 셈 출라서 시월 제발라 펜도네 데네 돌드나 안쪽이 류다 셈 디기 튼투 투베겐 투바덴데 시 차그래
At the end of page 115, the effect or the result, consequences of the concentration, or the benefit, although, as practitioners of meditation, you already know, what are the benefits and why you are doing, a meditation. But here it is presented as follows. In reliance on concentration, the wisdom of special insight arises. Also, it pacifies the mental disturbances and so on that come from attachment, excitation, scattering, and gross fluctuation of thought regarding the qualities of external sense objects, and it makes the mind and body serviceable and so on. In the text, it talks about, as said here at the beginning, depending or reliance on concentration, then one can have the practice of calm abiding meditation. And from that calm abiding meditation, one can move into the meditation of special insight. And then later, one can have a combination or alternation of those two kinds of meditation. And as a result, one can have, pacifications or calming of the mental disturbances or afflictions. And so all of these benefits or results, but in simple language, we can say that, through practice of concentration or meditation, we can have the calmness or happiness of the both body and mind.
디제 데네 당도 시랍기 나니 카산디 와디 시랍기 예와디 갑도라 디 순도와 단다 시랍델라야 게토기 시랍 조토기 시랍 네 니제 치마델라야 나세기 진에 네 튼중 트삼 곰숨 덴데지네 수용도 다칸다르jan타 디네마 다 게토기 시랍 단 조토기 시랍 제데 잠발라 디 töba so jorwala tömi go bar kanza rani gi gyula rani gi kebe sherap de ketop gi sherap se tu sambala tunda dordi wa ina ngazo Kewa ngema la nga zogi chik tso sonam tepena chik label tende tanda kogab samboji rajagen chik khansa chenba yenba yena kuji chik kewa ngoma la tebe paja tang tende yakbo tende yodio sambala kewa dila yang chik kare deji la changba yena yang chik le lawo tang chik lo la tsimba yena yang le lawo tsintoba kare changba yena le lawo shetoba tende chiki naminji la ene tende shuki keto ki chik sherab tang ene jordo ki sherab sedio sambala tanda ke sidila yang ta tanda changne ni chingang su ge chinyan da ra so ba den den tyo sam gom sum gi gone den de chik ten ni ke be dila ni ke ta jortop gen sherap on den sum ge sare
And at the end of page 116, for the wisdom, when categorized wisdom, here it is categorized into two. Innate wisdom and wisdom acquired through mental cultivation. And then when the latter is subdivided according to order of arising, there are three types: wisdom generated through learning, wisdom generated through critical reflection, and wisdom generated through meditative cultivation. And so within these two, the first one, innate wisdom or inborn wisdom, is the wisdom that arises spontaneously within a person's continuum without having trained in learning and so on. So this is basically refers to the it refers to sort of the power or the mental imprints uh, from the previous lifetime. In the previous lifetime, if you have if you have accumulated positive merits, if you have engaged in learning, practice meditation, then in this lifetime, all of these seems kind of very easy, quick to learn, and you sort of it becomes then your inborn or innate wisdom. The second is the wisdom, ascertain just the general meaning of words through listening to any teachings not previously heard, memorizing them without forgetting, and reciting them, copying them, and so on, in order to commit them to memory. So the second one is really kind of learning everything newly in this lifetime without sort of anything coming down from the past lives, learning or karmic accumulations.
no de ti wa de la ne tanda di tyo ba ta sam ba ta gomba gomba sum de de chine yong do chidan ne tyo ba je de tanda di tyo be tan ta chi nga zo ka chi ka chö khang da ka nyam ba de la ne so ki ngone chi so lo la pa be te chi ta chi che ne ta chi nye ba zen de sam ba la ta di re sam ro chi nye ba de la nye ba che go ya de ke tan ta dor de na si kanda kan yin ba yin re che kan de yin ba yin re de gen den ngoma de ne su la nye to la be zen che go den de che ga to ba sam ta den nye ba de la de ne sam chik sam lo tang ne ba su ran gyu la den nye be den la yang kombar che ne kombar che ba yin ne chik su lu la ye pemba sem la ye pemba den de chung ge ta de la de ne ta kom go ba den de chi cha ge sa
Tikar pishila pejan dal sunbe.
pecha de sumba da shiba nindu ene sumba da ta na tanda wa da la do sumba shiba la ni do mi do
So these two are followed by uh, wisdom generated through or cultivated through three process: learning,
odin la yo tösam kom sumja odin la do
learning or listening or hearing, and then second is critical reflection or contemplation, and then third is meditation or meditative cultivation. And then in the text it says 117, wisdom that engages in inquiry and analysis of the meaning of the words listened to, and eventually through valid cognition ascertaining that meaning. Fourth is the wisdom that is a single-pointed mind, assisted by a special pliancy that makes the mind and body serviceable, arisen from meditating again and again on the meaning ascertained by the wisdom arisen from a critical reflection. Going through these, three processes. First, kind of acquiring or learning or hearing, and whatever that you have heard, learned, taking that into the next level of contemplation and further kind of, sort of analysis. And through that, deriving from that, then one can have, the actual experience of physical and mental pliancy.
No, dice, tadi wa de la tanda di. Digital conto maybe la soba senjung abo teta ngondi su ngomba kundi su yunge ngar shejing kondor minjo yang te yul so ngeba chen bi gyun zen yin de se ta digan la ta chi kondor minjo ba da any yunge ngar jo bi gyun zen de woji sungu de diwa de shu she injin dumba ne tendo nyeji yulan chungwa jong yang shen la minjo wa da me ba ngar da shi ngar changbe yulan chung shen le min chung la ta chik ta dunpa da tenpa da tingin zin la soba ani chik kyu kante sin chung dang da wo di sung gado ani tenpa de ani tibi yul kona li chung la tingin zin di sherab takbar tibi yul kona li chung ngomba ome shung chun ngomba nzo le ngabo de da kundur sheba ni tesom tang tsumbal tenpe ta dila yang tesi dina yoba dina chi shusha na dikido ta chik yungay la tangwa tang kundur tangwa di chik mitimba tenpe chi sungu yungay sar di puru kebar do shusha na.
Page 118. Thus, the compendium of knowledge says that the five mental factors mentioned above, aspiration and so on, have a determinate object. So why, these five are called determinate object? And the reason why they are not listed as the omnipresent is because they each ascertain their object as follows. So here, the text is explaining that according to the compendium of knowledge, these five are called five mental factors with determinate object, while compared to the treasury of knowledge, these are not considered as separate mental factors. They are considered as a part of five omnipresent. So, the why such a differences. Why they are not listed as omnipresent is because they each ascertain their object as follows. Aspiration arises regarding a sought object but does not arise regarding anything else. Resolution arises regarding a previously ascertained object but does not arise regarding anything else. Mindfulness arises only regarding a familiar object. Both concentration and wisdom arise only regarding an object of investigation. However, Vasubandhu's treasury of knowledge, a lower Abhidharma text, even these five are described as omnipresent. The reason is that even in, for example, a mind with doubt as a concomitant mental factor, a slight degree of wisdom exists. However, in such a mind, a wisdom aspect is weak. Doubt is the dominant factor present. This is so will be explained in the presentation of mental factors based on the treasury of knowledge below in chapter 12. So the next topics for today is 11 virtuous mental factors. So 11 virtuous mental factors. So these 11s are, as in your text, starts with faith, shame, embarrassment, non-attachment, non-hatred, non-delusion, diligence, pliancy, heedfulness, equanimity, and non-violence.
Dice, dene gewa chu dice, dene da chidane da dene ma gewa chu bu de re ki ene chik kurangi ene kecho senare ten dene ma shu yongdo chidane da gewa chu se de zambala chidane gewa chu chi se de zambala gewa chu chi dige tanganzo gyudan ken kandida uji na chik soso mi kanza soso la chik chajawa ina chik dibu sambo trubya ki dende chik chagore de nane gewa chukchik de nane na 당보 대바 송바티기 대바디 지단에 가서 라발롬냐 제나레 최칭연 제나레 최칭연 간데지 제바이나야 직 대바 직 조나니 조도시 자기도 지단에 대바 거야 돼 개침부 제 저기 디잠발라 지단에 디가 나라니 세진 세워 또 디나지 시자 전에 다직 먼저 슈에기 디치긴 디인도 잠발라 대파 지단에 대파기 ngodo 간데지 저우체 샤그레 제나 디나라 숨바나진 라니 칸라 데비 기부 담bar 이체와 다 타와다 대파 간운지 넘버 chen 율던도 녀베 율던도 녀베 템베 텐체베 sem중오 제디 잠발라 단다디 디게네 직 라니 칸라 대바기 대비 기부 담바세 되선발라 소소기 직 원기 춘들 여베니 게 던진기 기부 담바 개베 신년 라 소바테달라니 이체바다 당와께바 당와제 당와당 되바다디 되바 관계 남바천도 일던도 녀녀 되게 에니 직 대다 대 다베니 율데니 소소라 직 토벌산베니 군롱 sembato tenjela shugisara.
And each will explain in more detail in the following presentation. So starting with the faith. Being a virtuous mental factors, if you're able to cultivate or develop any of these, there is the effect of positive or good result, having able to generate or cultivate these mental factors. Beginning with the faith, says these mental factors function as the basis of aspiration, aiming for a purpose. It has the aspect of trusting, admiring, or emulating a holy being in whom one has faith. So generally, faith is considered as very important in any kind of field of learning, learning, and especially in spiritual kind of fields. And we'll try to kind of explain according to how it is presented here. So it has an aspect of trusting, admiring, or emulating a holy being. So this can refer to, as a practitioner, if you have a spiritual teacher or, somebody who you kind of seek, instruct to learn spiritual matters. So trusting in them, admiring in them, and longing to have their kind of qualities, in yourself.
어디제 다치단 단단히 강데 디누마 뭔가 군디기 싸워대도 디마로 디기 대화도 되는 마주샤는 파시실 디지로 연된 전당 집에 당외 대비 미울도 된 데서 랑이 강라 대비 기부 담바 속에 연된 통에 추 녀바 담바신도 셈 녀몽기 녀바 산에 연된 고마 줄라 기론도 송에 대바데 아니 당와 집에 모든지 아니 대바 인세도 삼발라 다단다 아니 직 소소기 아니 기부 담바 당하나도 투몬도 아니 직 제와이나 공사경 원신노부 더부 라 모티나 슈나 미디와미도 딘디 삼발로 소소기 연된 통네 추 녀마 다진 추 녀마 다진 셈 녀몽기 녀몽기 녀바 상네 연된 고마 귤라 기론도 송에 대바게 데스 다직 단다디나 추 당아도 추 된다 베디다 아니 베기 된다데 그직 추녀마 당신도 저도 잠발라 추기 라신데 자마임바다 아니 되게니 지게 셈 되게 단다 되게 지 도르드나 아니 추기 라신 자마임바다 셈게 라신 자마임바 대상네 아니 연된 고마귤라 기론도 송에 아니 대바 된디실라 아니 무슨 슈기도 대바던도 어디 강지 때버들로 어디 슈션
Um,
지티긴
so the expression, has qualities. So according to the text Compendium of Knowledge, these phrases are then explained here. The phrase has qualities, quote unquote, indicates the object of admiring faith. For upon seeing the qualities of a holy being in whom one has faith and so on, the mind becomes clear of defilements, like water becoming a clear of mud, and this leads to faith that higher qualities can arise within one's own continuum. So here, for for us, it would be a sufficient sort of good to have like His Holiness the Dalai Lama looking at his qualities, and then kind of with that kind of quality, seeing such qualities, with faith and so on, then it kind of, it says here, it helps becoming mind, clear or pure from defilements, like water becoming clear of mud, and this leads to the higher qualities arises within one's own mind, and this is what admiring faith is.
어디 단다디 공도 집에 공부건데 시티르더니 누바 집에 온데기 대비 미울데 미든 저 뽕네바다 연된 고마 톱니 수시비 네바 토버 차오 냠베 온데기니 대바 다지 미든 저 미든 간다 관계니 미든 저 뽕네바 연된 고마 톱니 수시비 네바 토버 차오 냠베 온데기 대바 저번에 더바 집에 오든지 대바이 넣어서 대한 질 연된 탐지 유닛 준비연라 준비 개발라 되냐긴 듬바 고신 듬바 개와야 공 연된 통신 이체 대바 고바다 대바 연된 탐지 실수 수로 공대다 잡을 어디 차상대 즉 쉬셔나
Emulating faith. 그래서 당보대
당외다 당보대 당외대 봐.
어디 숨으신 데버라
어디 버도 쉬인 봐.
숨숨
당외대 봐. 당외대 봐 이노 어디 버도 쉬인 어디니가 쉬셨는데. 당외대 봐다 아니 단다 어딘지 대 봐서.
So the phrase and their meaning, the phrase from Compendium of Knowledge, here the phrase actually exists indicates the object of trusting faith, for it is faith that has confidence in what is true, existent, and non-deceptive. Then the phrase has qualities indicates the object of admiring faith, for upon seeing the qualities of holy being in whom one has faith and so on, the mind becomes a clear of defilement, like water becoming a clear of mind, and this leads to faith that higher qualities can arise within one's own continuum. And then the third faith, the phrase has ability indicates the object of emulating faith, the faith that thinks, quote, knowing that unskillful condition can be abundant and higher qualities can be attained, I must definitely attain them. And that is the emulating faith.
어디지 다단다 디급수들라 아니 돈다 돌드나데 대바다 다체 대바데라 아니 직 대바 응오된지 대바다 아니 단다디 대발라 니스 딘데 송와다 지다니 가서 뒤균도 지금 알아서 춘들레 벨라마 수다 수이나 디나니 송바 나진지 직 알아서 라진 수인바이나 딘데 로케고야데 돈다 조도데 펜 디게니 딘데 로케와라 펜도 가려요레서는 소소 라인 직 펜도 요바데 경고해야 개침벌했다 즉 소소길로 간디치기 라직 제네 냠바임바이나 소소라 직 단다 오네 숨바나 신게네 파 라마델라 라마세나제 저 소소 준에 벨라마라 간디시바이네 데즈기에네 직 소소라이네 연된당 가리나 야부 용기요와다 덴데네 다 중네만 보송요래 다지다네 딩에니 켜나도 람랭당 덴데 티에 디즘발라 베체 캥기 그래.
So these, kinds of faith, trusting, admiring, emulating faith, it is important to have, if you can, have this kind of faith towards, especially spiritual teacher with whom you have direct spiritual connections or your spiritual lama. And because having this faith in oneself can have lots of benefits, such as receiving spiritual qualities or knowledge from one's teacher, so on and forth. And probably you are, familiar with all this, having studied Lamrim treatises on stages of path text.
어디지 되네 다디네 마니 모자셰 모자셰베 semjung당 모자셰베 semjung당 텔리베 semjung 도자메베 semjung당 되네 마님도 냠도 니순 주샤게 베나 다디네 송바나지 랑균젠도 제네 카나마도 발란 쩨칭 젤레니 녜제 dombe 텐지베 semjung 세드 삼발라 된다데 모자셰베 세드 삼발라 직 소소균젠도 제네 직게 셴라 에네 직게 칭년바당 직 두자라 소바 텐델라 에네 zemba te zemba de la tene ta chik chele ene nye dombe ta chiki susula digi chele ene dombe ten chebe ene semjong ta chiki tende mayo wal gek cheba ta digi ngoza shebe semjong gi ngodo de chagido ngoza she chidane ngoza sheba se tsumo dordu na chik shen rang gyunzen du chene shen la ene chik tsingen da chik tende mame wata tende chagore and sem tell you be sem jung se de zamba rang gyun chen du chene khana ma do nye lan zem ba zen de ding this do cha or da so da rang gyun chen du cha ba da chen gyun chen du chene chik thing ngam ba la so ba de chik ma me wa and de gi ne de la de ne nye de chele ne nye che pong ba da di pong ba che or sem tell you be sem de semjung de docha mebe semjung de siba sebe chele la mini tela jamba lojing nyeba minju be semjung so ze du sambala ta chida ni kengi gu nga ta chik nga so khare ji ba yana dinga la go sare di dan di ze ne ta chik mi su ga ne de la ni shenja chembo cheba de pa ba de ji chegdo.
The second of the 11 virtuous mental factor, it's on page 122nd paragraph, translated as a shame. This mental factor shuns wrongdoing out of consideration for oneself. It acts as a basis for refraining from bad conduct and for engaging in good conduct. So as said here, the shame is basically, abstaining or refraining from bad conduct, such as, harming others, using abusive language. And the reason that you use here is for your own, it says oneself. You use yourself as a reason, consideration for oneself. And so what it does is that if you have a shame basis of refraining from bad conduct, so it kind of helps you to refrain from engaging in such conduct. The third, embarrassment, translated as embarrassment. The function is same as the earlier one. You refrain from bad conduct, physically, verbally, intruding others. But the reason that you use here is because of consideration for others. You use others as a reason for refraining, from harming others or bad conduct. And the function is the same, to engage in good conduct and abandoning bad conduct. Then the fourth is non-attachment. It says it's a mental factor that having observed samsaric existence and what is needed to lead such existence, reverses attachment to them and function as a basis for not engaging in bad conduct. So non-attachment, meaning reversing attachment to them. When we have a thought of attachment, such as I want this, that, so instead of wanting, you sort of detach, or non-attachment.
어디지 다치다니 다디 모자셔바다 텔려바스 니데니 더우도지 직다단다디가 디와델 슈샤도데 되나야 직 디니키 케바도데 니가 직바임바체 다 가자 라니 윤젠도 제네 아니 직 치수라소바마와다 제랑 윤젠도 제네 치수마라소 데니키 케바지 차르도 된다 시바디나라도에 다우도 도도 슈슈샤나데
So although it is said in here, but the differences between, as we said earlier, shame and embarrassment, both does the same thing, refraining from wrongdoing. But for the shame, you are using yourself as a reason of refraining from such conduct. In embarrassment, you are using others as a reason for refraining from bad or harming others.
Tene ta ngapa de shedan mebe semjung zedu zambala shedan kewe yul sum kanron la mine shedan kewa chomching neba chande ba so mebe semjung zedu zambala tanda ini shedan kese yul dawo de la sum shidena sungidu semjen da dongal kan le chuwe ne sumde nguzin shugudu pena ta shedan zedu zambala chike semjen yana da 동알 교회 주다 현라 당한 저기 즉 공로당 딘디기 왕기 다직 델라 다직 간사 델라 대단 독자로다 딘디 중화 델라 즉 요나 삼백 공롱 엠바스로 딘디지 차고래다 다다 디나라 소마 간론라 미네 세단 깨와 세단 깨wan 좀씩 너바 찬도 콜라디 용나 삼베 지금 미지 나자 중앙에는 딜라이네 지 콘로다 세단 기왕게 고는디 용나 삼베 군론도 덴디지 차고라다 차고라
And fifth, the mental factor is non-hatred. This mental factor, upon perceiving any of the three objects that give rise to anger, destroys the arising of anger and reverse any wish to harm and so on. The three objects that give rise to anger are sentient beings, suffering, and circumstances that produce suffering. So reverse any wish to harm, such as wishing somebody to suffer from illness, pain, and reversing from such thought would be the non-hatred.
어디디 세단제 요나 삼바디 세단제 대마 요나 삼바디 다 세단 메바지 다디나 심젠남 동알기 네 남라 꾸네 나세 메바디 냐버쳐발라 민주비 텐치비 레제노 체드 삼발라 세단 메베 심종 다디 참 주요디 삼발라 삼점라 되는 뭐 야 뭐제 그 다디 주차상 개월에
So wishing to harm is the hatred. So the reversing that would be a non-hatred.
어디지 되네 티무메베 semjung세도 좀 semjungdel라니 케톱단 조중게 귤라데네 티무게 냠보체진 소소토베 셔럽지 차도베 semjung 제도 잠발라 지단에 따탄디간라야 케톱단 조중세도 잠발라 직 단다 장가르기 레게 왕기에네 직 소소랑왕 슈슈 기 여바당 조중세도 잠발라 단다 게 교단 켄라 때네 중화 텐디실라 타란 직바랑 ngân 슈바나 신기 네 티무 메베 네 타 티무 세드 삼발라 마셰바다 타 티무 세드 삼발라 ngân 니라야 ngân 슈고레 텐디지타 텐디기 레로 소베타 텐데라 마뎀바 소소토 베셔라 셰타 직 사진 살와 토 베셔라 텐디지 슈나디 오디 차토 베셈중딜라 에네 카르세 티무 메베 셈중
Number 6 is non-delusion, page 121. The sixth mental factor is non-delusion. This mental factor refers to an aspect of fine investigative wisdom and independence on its cause, or whether innate or generated through training. It functions as the antidote to delusion. So as we said, we saw earlier, these two, it could be, innate or generated through training. Innate meaning inborn, and that because of your past karmic, action. You don't need to sort of learn everything in this lifetime. The generate through training is something that you newly acquired in this lifetime. So depending on any of these two courses, um, um, function as an antidote to delusion. So it's serve as an antidote to any kinds of afflictions or delusions. The compendium of knowledge says, what is non-delusion? It is fine investigation and wisdom arisen from karmic ripening, from studying the scriptures, from contemplating their meaning, or from realizing their meaning. Thus, it functions as a basis for not engaging in bad conduct.
어디를 다는 디가나 다른 언니 송반하시기는 언제 넘버 언제 내민지 레다 아니 다다 롱다 다 퇴삼 검숨지 도바딜라 된 텔라테네 아니 시징 소수다 서진 사와다 또 투바 제또 투바 제바데 인티모메 때메 바데 시숭괴사래 소 똑같아서 어디
So innate and generated, also explained here. Innate means generated through the ripening or powerful purification accomplished in an earlier life. So it is said to be from karmic ripening, and generated through training refers three stages of training: learning, critical reflection, and meditative cultivation.
사서로 어디에 제타디 버로 될다 퍼센티지나 아니 ሼ라야 티와이나 메나디 두고두고 쉬셔
So we'll take a break here, and after the break, we'll have a discussions, or if you have any questions. Any questions?
Yeah. Joshua, would you talk a bit about the relationship of non-attachment as a mental factor to the concept of renunciation?
Shedang mebada nyejungi samlo para jawa kharyo resa dikor jisungro chis.
레레레 shedan me pa ngenju ni parala
nyejung lo para jawa kharyo lo tu.
yeah chidane tanda shedan me pa setu sambala ta chidane shedan setu sambala sem konto dan tende ngajal dan tende la soba ji ta chik shen simje na de kare na la ene chik magawa dan ta chik ta makiba dan tende la soba jo simjero tende ji la ene shedan se te manjo te mebe sem de la shedan mebe sem tende mayo sem de la shedan mebe sem se giro ondene shur shedan meba de chik shuna
Non-hatred itself is, absence of hatred, or absence of, or none, kind of disliking, none, thoughts of having, so basically opposite of the, the hatred. So first, he was trying to explain the what hatred itself is.
어디 지단에 세상 매바데 디레 되네 ngenjung 세상 매바다 ngenjung이 개발스기도 세단데
대화 가려서
알레
ngenjung
믹스기 코니 세상 대화세다 김 차사마로 이나디니 섬로 개초 조사를 배제 다이나 단다 ngenjung 세트 삼발라 가서 코로알라 ngenjung게 세트 삼발라 코로아 칸데 칸당 칸라 임바이나치 대단 텔라 님보 매바 통네 대네 대기에네 로 ene chik nga zu chue la chue so do wa tende chi ke yong du samba la ta chi kho la ngen jong ke se shu ro.
And renunciation, in brief, is seeing sort of essenceless of the samsara, cyclic existence, and then wanting to kind of free or away from it.
kunyi da this dewa do de misigi da chagmi do ba chagde.
Dewa kharo kunyi dewa kharo re lo.
Dewa misigi chagmi do nga samba la tende chi chagmi do chagde.
So he thinks he don't see any particular specific relationship between these two.
More interested in non-attachment.
Docha meba las.
docha me ba da jida me ba.
Docha meba da ani chung paral.
Alele. Re. docha me ba se de samba la ka ta chik tanda din chida ni nga jo khanda khain ba na chik chajen do de da de ni nga la pe na ngo pu chung chung do ji ba na re khare na re ta ti chik ta de nga la ko samba chik samlo chi ke go ra de ni chakwa chagre de ni de me ba lo de la ni docha me ba chida ni docha de chida ta chik docha yo ba de la de ni ta nga jo pe docha de pang koya de pe ke chembor chawre docha de la de ni ta nga jo korwa la koryong kor so gyuken chik docha de chawre
Kora nyejung la gwe. Moranda nyejung da docha meba dewa kharo re lo.
어디서 그다음에 방금 도자대 하고 그다
디나올 송다지나 고 도자 메발 좀 되셔게 좀 벌고 nyejung lo yamba ro sungshado.
알레
시바드 시베 예를 민 텔레 심바 로징라네. 네발 메주베 텐치베 심중 라로. 다 시발라 심바 로나 고 nyejung 로.
yes
데인디 좀 벌다 도자 메바다 nyejung lo dewa kharo re lo chiwa.
알레레 디 도자 매바당 준이네 도자 매바당 준 도자 매바당 준이 따직 스틸라에 더더 차기도 되나 코니 직바다 차기 말해
So he's saying there's a great resemblance between the non-attachment and the renunciation, but they are not exactly the same thing.
당한조 지단에 도자 매바제 단다 딜라테네 캥게레데 지단에 년중기 로도데 컨디실라 저기 요바디 캥고고라 어디 딕션
So in order to kind of understand the relationship between these two, non-attachment is explained here, but also needs to understand what is the renunciation.
yeah
May I share the other
Sure.
section?
yeah
So especially these two of shame and embarrassment. This is what we were talking about in the front room. I have a different book of Buddhist terms. And for shame, it translated as self-respect, which sounds very different to my ears. And then for embarrassment, it had consideration for others, which matches the explanation given for those words, where shame is avoiding on virtue out of concern for oneself. And then it had embarrassment as avoiding on virtue as concern for others. So I just kind of offer those, maybe if it helps people understand these terms a little better.
That actually makes more sense.
Yeah, self-respect and consideration.
Because the opposite are self-oriented, where the other ones are externally oriented.
Yeah, just in case that helps others understand these terms.
Renunciation.
No, it's not in this group of mental factors.
Renunciation done. Is renunciation a mental factor?
nyejung di simjung jwesa.
ngen중기 셈데 셈중나라 탐에도 바탕데
장다 요 말에 shwe
알레레 ngen중기 셈데 디 셈중도 차사로 봐
So although it is not cited as a one, but he thinks very kind of similar to the mental factor.
That's my question. What's the difference between non-hatred?
she당 매바다 참 닝절 켜와 가려 그래서
shedan me badan chambada ninjila.
닝제다 셰다메 바로 켜거려서.
지단이 개회기 초임발라다 직바도 차도고르데 이나야 다 코란 수수수수 인원이 젤리카 만다와데 대용도 shedanme 바제도 잠발라 율 코란기 인원선데 닝제데 캡처와다 shedan데 캡충하기 개발이 어렵다 간다.
Uh, from the perspective of virtuous or not, both are virtuous. These two have their own respective functions. But if you do compare, then compassion is more, as you were saying, it's more extensive as compared to the non hatred.
어디지로 대화 연나 송기송기지 대화 매와이나 당한도 디는 송바나 징기 디기 ngо도 어디 돌디 조샤고 지단이 단다 디간라 망치 돌디지 디간라 잡든지니 티니 군두기 롱데 참말라 요와도 오지레 사다든가 조조데 디치는 조샤겐다 슈모디 직슈는
So if there's no question, we will continue, and you can ask questions if you have stop, in between. And almost all of this has a code from compendium of knowledge, to further kind of explain these mental factors.
다단다 디간라 준주 대체 저도 준주 세도 삼발라 게베 차와라미네 셈응om바토에 넘버 첸세도 삼발라 지단에 가족이 되게 된도 가족 준주일라도 삼발라 가레실레 내가 칸데실라 좋아 쳐봐이나 데델라 자게 용기도 다 용고래 지단에 단다 최슈니 셔봐이나 준주일라도 삼발라 추게 게베 차와 칸데시 쳐봐이라 딜라이니 준주당 현다도 졸라양 준주당 경호도 책임에 삼삼로지 수용도 정이 동안한 게 지단에 셴발 준주 세트 삼발라 계획이에네 레라이네 단다 디니 숨베타 준주 세트 삼발라 계획 레라 지단에 자와 간다 칸라야네 베바 슈침부 체와들라 간조 소와 슈고도 다단다 디기 준주라도 삼방 오데 계획 자와라미네 셈고바 토웨네 직 계획 자와 체발라 테네 셈라디기 중화텐데 지게네 딜라디 지기도
The next is seven, diligence, translated here as a diligence. Diligence here strictly it means as said here, a mental factor consists of completely joyous mental state that is focused on virtuous activity. So in here it has to be a joyous activity focused on virtuous activity, joyous mental state, joyous activity. But there is, again, just like in the English language, diligence in general can mean same as effort, or but not in this case or in this sense. It has a very particular meaning.
어디지 지단 다 준주들라이네
It's equanimic, right? Is that correct? It's equanimic. Because you can have diligence that's driven by aversion.
No, in this so again, in this sense, I think it's more important to look at the definition rather than the word itself. So the meaning here would be completely joyous mental state, focus on virtuous activity. So whether that is a diligence or not, I think that's a separate question. But what is a diligence here is this is the meaning.
Okay.
So equanimity, it will come later. It's
joyous diligence.
Yeah.
As opposed to aversive diligence.
Yeah.
Is this the same as the perfection?
Perfection in purging.
Perfection. Joyful effort.
The purging to
직발 이 직발 준주 다른 퍼진 쪽이나 게 퍼진 준주 다른 준디레 다른래
Yeah, so he thinks it's same as in sixth perfection.
이제 준주들라에 직발을 말해 때는 개발된데 얘는 다른 직발을 선 것도
So yeah,
소나 되게
So he thinks it's same as the perfection. But he was asking me, whether I think it's the same way. And, I mean, the way it is defined looks similar, but usually I don't think it's the same. Because here we are talking about virtuous mental factor. When you talk about the perfection, high level practice of bodhisattva. So this kind of diligence, we can have it as ordinary people, but we don't have a perfection of diligence. It's so perfection of diligence is the practice of bodhisattva. If you look at this, so I think there should be differences. Rejoice the rejoice Jesu Rang Lore. Jesu Rang the Jibba
제 다 치코랑 때와이나 카가로 준비 세트 삼발라 직저 가리나 조와 제거야도 장바 제거야 되는 예수이랑 세트 삼발라 직 생기 제바 될라에네 때다 대신에네 제바 되네 야고 삼백 공론도 된데를 차오라.
So from the word itself, he was saying in the difference when you talk about what you said, rejoicing. The rejoicing is more of a mental state, but the effort diligence here is actually the making an effort. So it's an act, it's an action rather than a mental state. So that's from the word itself. In Tibetan, you will see the immediate differences between these two.
Yeah, isn't rejoicing in the virtuous deeds of others more than oneself?
The Shengi Gewala Jesu Yerang the Sundu So he thinks it's not a diligence in this context, rejoicing in others, deeds.
Yeah, that makes sense actually, because they're not rejoicing, oh, I did something great, I'm gonna go party because of it, but you're happy that other people are, that does seem like a mental perfection.
In line of perfections, zealousness.
Yeah, zealous is the same as this one, different translation. Yeah. Pajin tu na lower.
Yeah.
Pajin tu na section ba pishi na lo. Tegalan diwa de kundu long chang do. Di na le ne ni de zhe ko jesu rang sik do de shin chu.
어디 지티와 연나 유그 주디메나 디 준비기 여와들 라인에 여왕아 디는 여왕아지 숨고도 디슈샤나디.
Yeah, if you have questions, you can ask. If not, we'll move forward. Types of diligence here, 5 types. And these 5 types, if I just read at the end of page 121, delight that occurs prior to engaging in virtue is the diligence of armoring. Delight that occurs at the time of the virtuous application, whether steady application or zealous application, is the diligence of application, the second. And then third, delight that occurs as non-discouragement of mind when generating virtue is the diligence of non-discouragement. Delight that occurs as not turning away from the virtue in adverse conditions, such as other people, is the diligence of non-reversal. And then fifth one is delight that occurs as not being content with the virtue one has already developed, is the diligence of non-indolence. So these are the 5 types of diligence. So maybe translation difference. Translation difference. The kujo da taksho leishto. The piyunare no ko yewa ni jiro tada dida. So the 5 types, again, these 5 types, although there are many different types of diligence, but these 5 types are based on compendium of knowledge. And for the second one, is diligence of application. In the Tibetan text, diligence of application is categorized into two. These two are steady application. I will keep the same translation. Steady application and zealous application. But here in English, it is translated as if, these are kind of, or, instead of saying and, the word used here is or. Maybe it's right, but just want to make it clear that diligence of application has a two type, steady application and zealous application. Any questions?
다 디는마 신의 개바디 다 신도 창배 sem중 세트 삼발라 다 지단에 신도 창바제나 갑둘랑한 슈샤바이나 지단에 직 가레이나나 창바 탈침바도 직 가레이나 직 장바요바 다 로페나 페자도 지나 가레 로라 짐바이나 갑두거나 갑두 껴라요와지나 직 장바 차바제저라 인디질라 고거다 신도 장바제 지단 다 디나라 송바나진 셈케베 미발라 칠단 되베 시콜도 루 라시 순조징 세데 딘디 송도 하단다 된다 가리지나 소소라 직 라살이나 다도 추 디나 다도 딜라이네 장바차나 셀라이네 가리나 냄상 제초조 저기 차기로 디 고거다 고야다 지기 된다로
Next, 8 mental factors, pliancy. So pliancy, Geshe was saying in Tibetan word, it has a meaning of fully or completely trained. So once you are completely trained or fully trained, say, if there's a particular text, if you're fully trained, you can just, fluently recite or explain without any problem. So that would be just the meaning of the word itself. And here, pliancy has the same meaning, but it is explained as a mental factor sets tendency in the mind stream that enables the mind to become serviceable in focusing on a virtuous object exactly as desired, and that interrupts the continuum of bodily and mental dysfunction. Compendium of Knowledge says, what is pliancy? It is serviceability of body and mind that has the function of dispelling all hindrances, since it interrupts the continuum of bodily and mental dysfunction.
어디에 다단다 디나라 소는데 삼바다 류나 셈 레소 롱와 세트 삼발라 땅아 조이직 단다 나베 슈니 셴데 삼바다 야람 토사 야간 레레데 삼바 류신장다 셈신장세네 덴데 소는데 삼바다 직 류나 셈 카레이나 토바메바 직 덴데지 지 숭고로 디나 덴데 어디 숨바나진 덴데 차게르 다다 직 사주 람갈라 수베 림발라 소바타 덴데 창네 덴데 림바 요르다 호덴데 다 판다 덴데지 차게레
And what has been said here, serviceable, in body and physical, through a meditation practice, when you reach, high level of meditation, or through, 5 grounds or 10 bhumis, 5 paths or 10 grounds or bhumis, at a certain level, then you will have this kind of ability, you can use both your body and mind in whatever or however you want to use it. It becomes serviceable.
Dilaina Xinjiang de la Yawaina, Tanda Digala, Lu Xinjiang, Semjinjang, Ni Sungudo, in the Zambala, Tanda di Ludini Ginani, Tanda di Shishindo Shindo Chambe, Semze de Zambala, Sem Xinjiang in the Sungudo, Tanda Dina.
So from the body, it has a true physical and mental, and here appliancy is mental appliancy.
Dice tanda digala tanda di payobe ta dice payobe semjung di kandice la zena payo setu sambala chik tanda ta chik gewa tang migewa la sope ta chik sem chik lesurunga ta chik nyargendo pato nyargendo tendice la nibato jile shuguye sare ta kandar jang chidane mi pato dan do chik do setu sambala chik 냠촌촌다 시디첸 덴데젤라 남경한조 용달라 덴디시 슈그로와 단다디간라 데 독숨 메바다 준주젤라 딱신 개베 최강롱식라 민네 sem mitun chole so in number chance and chance sumba na jen dindire chele go wala pele chiri pa chibe sim chung se odin.
The nine mental factor is heedfulness, translated as heedfulness. Again, the more common translation is conscientiousness. This mental factor is ascribed to a mind that lacks the three poisons and possesses diligence. Upon observing any type of virtuous factor, it has the aspect of protecting the mind from unfavorable factors. It functions to generate, maintain, or increase virtue. So, as said here, it has the aspect of protecting a mind from unfavorable factors or non-virtuous state. And generally, in colloquial language, we use this in the colloquial, when we say somebody is very heedfulness, it refers to a person with the personality of calmness, peacefulness.
Tanda kundi yilung de shushana de.
The Compendium of Knowledge says, what is heedfulness? Based on non-attachment, non-hatred, and non-delusion, and accompanied by diligence, it is what habituates the mind to virtuous factors.
Telan de yawa do chewa ina ngonji tatan chime tala sopa ngonji tatan chime tala so uji tala sopa sum dang tati dini ma khaptu diti shushana de.
And its classification, when categorized, heedfulness has three divisions. Heedfulness regarding conduct belonging to the past, the future, or the present. Or we can count five divisions if we include conduct from an earlier time that continues to a later time. This order is expressed in the Compendium of Knowledge. Again, the same text, quote, purify past non-virtuous, refrain from them in the future, and do not engage in them in the present. Examine your motivation and continuously abide with heedfulness, unquote.
Odi che tene ta tanyom tsete sambala che chi la sambata woji tende ro chi dan simjen thamje la sambe sambata wodi tanyom ji samba ni namjo ne kengora ta tanyom ji sem do tanyom ni tinala sombana je nang do sem mikba la tse chi tu jobe thap namla tene semne gu rimji trupte semne gu la tobe tse chingo ji nyembo tembe zolwa chamigo bar sem rinji truba neba tobe semjungji shigla sungudu tanda dine ma sumbane jitane tanyom la de zambala da tarang di sungura semjen thamje la kyabe semdawo tanyom la na semjen thamje zana karina chiyong la kyabaji la tanyom se shugura tanyom kurangi tsikde.
Ten mental factors, equanimity. Equanimity in general has also a sense or understanding of, sort of reaching to all or everyone. So here it says this mental factor, having established the 9 stages of mental abiding using methods that set the mind single-pointedly on an internal object, attains spontaneous mental abiding without needing to exert any effort in applying the antidotes to laxity and excitation when the 9th stage of mental abiding is achieved.
어디 여와데 라인 저소와 두제 단념 소와 단념 체메 단념 숨송도 하오데
디가블다 두제 단념 제만도 지기 소와 심바 단님도 말스
디디나 슈도 하오데 슈디슈나리.
And again, in general, equanimity has 3 types on page 123. Equanimity that is conditioning factor, equanimity that is feeling, and immeasurable equanimity. In the present context, in this context, the equanimity is the first one, conditioning factor. In the present context, we are concerned with the first type of equanimity. Any questions?
어디 제 단다 number me siwa di ki ngote daran shushana di to mi si ta chitan namjin di chi kinje mo do jro tina chin daran tina yo
And then
ngote chik shushana.
finally, a non-violence, the 11th mental factor. As stated here, this is a mental factor associated with non-hatred, that upon observing its object, sentient beings thinks with an aspect of loving kindness or being unable to bear others' suffering. Quote, if only they were free from suffering, unquote. It functions to restrain oneself from beating, killing, and so on. The Compendium of Knowledge says, what is nonviolence? It is the mind of compassion itself, which is associated with non-hatred. Its function is to restrain from harming, unquote. In brief, as a Compendium of Knowledge says, compassion has the nature of nonviolence. Any questions? Sure.
Any particular order, or is there a reason for the order that they're presented in?
Parim dostyan go jumjero yoro elado.
지게 균전다 요요요사르다 지게 다지 디나믹스기 디는 배제 슈는 사가도 토마소 다지 고바 지게 고바 지칼로 다디 균전 나랑기 디나마단다 디나라다 토마소 단다 지 배전 디나라디 고림다 덴제도디 다디 직 칼로 뉴바시 지중단 덴델라 소베직 인사를 당보 대바도 당보 송샤도 하나 지게 디기 제랑에 단다 디기 티와데 제랑에 따따체네 연주 상인에 줘야 주고 디고 직 칼로라 직 고림 뉴바 지중단 따직 톱 지중로 바베인데 신사를 삼기도.
So I was saying, although it is not stated explicitly in the text here, but he thinks in terms of their kind of capacity or power, there is some reason, and he will come back with the more findings. So he's asking me.
Yeah.
And in one of the book, by Mind and Mental Factors, this says a little bit about the order, especially of the 11 virtuous mental factor, because 11 virtuous mental factor starts with the faith. And in this book, again, translation difference, it is translated here as confidence. So I will use the word in here because it quotes, sutra, Ratna Kol Nama Dharani. So in that sutra, it's basically saying that faith is the most important foundation. So that's why it starts the faith. So if I change the translation, faith must precede all things like a mother. It guards and increases all positive things. It removes fears and rescues them from four rivers. Faith is the road sign to the citadel of happiness. So, it quotes the sutra saying that faith is the foundation. It should be it's a beginning. Therefore, it starts with the faith. If there's another translation, yeah.
I think that was a good translation.
Because 용진기 디나로 대법원들 말을 깨봤대 아니 윤대 탐지 송시켜 봤잖아요. 저러 대법 당복 교육 좀 자가려 봐. Any other questions?
Question. Yeah,
and you can ask any questions from the previous classes as well.
I really like how we want to see different.
I think in Shantideva's text, diligence or zealot has 3 types, right? If you remember, and here there are 5 different kind of. So again, what I heard was the 5 is the most extensive types of the diligence. Although you can find different ways of categorizing diligence, and And I think it's, especially the diligence, the way it is explained in the compendium of knowledge, it's very very effective the way it is explained here. Starting with the diligence of armoring, although this is also said in the Shantideva's text, right? But here, these are presented according to the very kind of proper sequence. If you start with the diligence of armoring, it starts with the prior to engaging a virtue. So before actually engaging in the virtuous activity, you start with the diligence, but it's a level of mind. So when you have a great interest, great effort, that itself becomes kind of armor, and you won't get obstructed by other kind of laziness and so on. So that's the beginning, and then once you have that, you move on to the actually engaging. So then it says a delight that occurs at the time of virtuous application. So when you actually engage in the action of the diligence, then there is this is what is called diligence of application. But it has a two type. You in your book says or, but in Tibetan, steady application and zealous application. So again, these two are kind of the one explanation. For me, it was very helpful. Within these two, the steady application is more important. It's like the metaphor that was used here was race between a rabbit and turtle. So the turtle race is like a steady application. You just keep doing continuously every day. But the zealous application, although the word doesn't say quite clearly, but zealous application is like a rabbit, just hopping and jumping, but then rest and not doing for several others. So these are the two types of when you apply a zealot, diligence. These are two ways. And then again, that occurs in non-discouragement. Diligence of non-discouragement is also applied, during, and then once you apply it, so sort of in the future to continue, then you have the final one, diligence of non-indolence. Again, here it says, if you read, delight that occurs as not being content with the virtue. So you already have, implemented, this diligence, but in order to sort of preserve it and further develop, that is going to come in the future, that is a diligence of non-indolence. So the way you engage in particular activities, this comes kind of in a proper kind of, order or sequence. So that would be, I thought it's a very good way to kind of, present its type instead of just 3 types or 4 types as we see in Shantideva's text.
Diligence is the antidote for laziness.
Mhm.
And I think even Shantideva presents diligence as the antidotes for 3 kinds of laziness.
Yes.
I mean, if you know, do these correspond with these 5 types? Correspond with specific types of laziness?
lelo nyembo lelo chunju nalo lelo nyembo la chunju so ro empo digi tanda de yawa di ko kaptu lelo re kaptu jare yoro lo do
lelo katsu yore di yoro chundu de lelo kona la pa just
no lelo yawa choro lelo yawa de la ani chunju yawa de re ba jare yoro lo di yam jare yoro ren pishla
so ji ta ji ta komo ko to masta
so Vijay wasn't sure about clear about that. Yeah, he will look at it.
de shu ji dane pagi dinala che kunzo nyembo loso di chundu de ta kanshale kona so che nyembo de yoro tension pa
Yeah, I think there would be, especially if you look at how it is presented here, not the Shantideva's way. First beginning with the prior to engaging, when you have this diligence of armor, having a great interest or desire of doing something, that would automatically kind of, sort of block the laziness. And which laziness, then you have to look into the, the types of laziness.
The non-discouragement one, because lacking self-confidence is a type of laziness. And so just when I saw that made me think of that question.
Any other questions? I think the equanimity, three types. Not sure how clear that is, but equanimity here is here we have a translation of conditioning factor. So three types of equanimity, right? I think the other two are important: equanimity in terms of feeling, equanimity in terms of immeasurable equanimity. But here, equanimity conditioning factor. Again, the example that was simple to understand is if you are riding a horse, and if your horse is riding, at the right pace in the right direction, then you don't need to change the rear end. You just keep going. That is the conditioning equanimity of conditioning factor here. If you are riding a horse, and if the horse is going towards the right direction on the right track, you don't need to change the course, right? You just keep it the same way and just move continuously. That is the equanimity of the conditioning factor here. And the feeling is, not into the steady feeling. And immeasurable equanimity is looking sameness of all sentient beings. So yeah. So those two are more easy to understand. But here, it won't be easy. For me, it's hard to understand just the word itself, conditioning factor.
Yeah. That question me wa ina de che shakaro.
Yes, sir.
Page number 49. Chanchu semcho rimbo che maye panam genjuro che kewa nyamba meba kone kondo pewara sho kanri rave korwe shinkande pendang dewa malu chungwe chere sewan tenzin yatso ye shape sete bardo denjuro che jambala pawe chedara Kundos dambo te yang te chen te da kunje je so da lo che te da kunje ge wan di da tam che rab du ngo te som che be kya wa tam che ngo kan la cho du ga de chen ge we sa wan de gu dambo che rab du ngo wa ra ye in English.
This room enjoy what is that has no terrorism arise and that is and diminish the language more and more. And then the man inside provides no. This also happiness. Those never see each other, say Tenzin girls, yes, just as the body is Geshe and emotions and smart it's certain informal deficit. And some of the sacrifice for the state which is so now to dedicate so someone.
Okay, thank you.